Welcome in.
Hello.
It is so great to have you with us today. I am your host, ready to get into it.
And I am your resident literary expert.
Yes, you are. And for this deep dive, we are taking on a mission that is, well, I think it's equal parts emotionally devastating and just incredibly beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. It really is.
Right. Because if you've been following the literary world lately, you already know the profound impact of Lily King's novel, Heart the Lover. But today, we aren't just summarizing the plot for you. We really want to unpack the intricate narrative architecture of the book.
Because it is intricate.
Highly intricate. We want to explore how King takes this traditional, almost tired love triangle trope.
Right.
And she completely subverts it into this masterclass on timing, memory, and really the lifelong echoes of our youth.
Yeah, it's a text that really stays with you, largely because of how it's built, actually. King doesn't just hand you a chronological romance.
No, she doesn't make it easy.
Not at all. Instead, she utilizes these shifting perspectives and nonlinear jumps in time to show us how betrayals and loyalties morph over decades.
Decades.
Exactly. And as we go through this analysis today, I really want you, the listener, to actively think about your own life.
Yeah.
Think about how the narrative structure of your own past, the relationships that ruptured and the ones that somehow endured, how they have shaped the exact reality you're living in right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp the brilliance of the ending, we have to look closely at the foundational architecture King establishes in those early college chapters.
Right, the breach house.
Exactly, the breach house. We all know the setup. Our narrator, Jordan, falls into the orbit of Sam and Yash at that house. But it's how King contrasts these two men as thematic foils that really sets the stage. Let's look at Sam first.
Ooh, Sam.
I mean, we all remember that brutal fight on the drive back from Atlanta where he accuses Jordan of being, what was the word?
Impertinent.
Impertinent, yes. But it's not just teenage angst, right? King emphasizes that Sam keeps copies of St. Augustine and Paul the Apostle right on his nightstand.
Exactly, and that detail is crucial. King is signaling to us that Sam's rigidity isn't just a quirky personality trait.
Right.
It's a deeply entrenched moral absolutism. He views the entire world through this binary lens of sin and grace.
Which is heavy for a college kid.
Very heavy.
Right.
And it makes his expectations of everyone around him incredibly punishing. I mean, when he kicks Jordan out of their shared life after that disastrous Atlanta trip, he's acting as a judge.
Oh, totally.
He's essentially excommunicating her for failing to meet his rigid standards of reverence.
Which, of course, leaves this massive vacuum. And into that vacuum steps Yash. And if Sam is the rigid judge, Yash is the theatrical cynic.
Oh, heavily theatrical.
Yeah. We see this in how he uses his wit. Instead of confronting things directly, Yash constantly performs. Like when he entertains Jordan by mimicking the chaotic dynamics of his own upbringing. Remember the fake Southern accent? He uses those sharp observational skills as a defense mechanism, basically arguing that human moral progress is a myth, that people don't actually change.
What's fascinating here is how the author uses a recurring motif to track the shifting dynamics and really the subversion of authority between these three. You already know about the card game they play in the house.
Sir Hinkum Funabuster.
Hinkum Funabuster, exactly. On the surface, it's just this chaotic parlor game with strip decks and families like the twins, the parrot, or the donkey.
Right, where you have to use ridiculously polite phrasing to ask for cards, or everyone just screams at you. Sounds like a quirky college memory, honestly.
It does. But look at the narrative heavy lifting the game is doing behind the scenes. King uses Sir Hinkum Funabuster as the exact linguistic mechanism Yash uses to bypass Sam's rigid authority.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because Sam controls the real world in that house. But in the game, Yash and Jordan develop a secret language.
They figure out each other's tells.
Exactly. Like how Yash always forgets about the donkey. When Yash starts playfully calling Jordan Hinkum and then just Hink,
Hink, yeah.
he is carving out an intimate space that Sam cannot access. It's a linguistic rebellion long before it ever becomes a physical romance.
That is such a great point. And that secret language inevitably bleeds into their reality while Sam's is away in Europe. We get that secluded, beautiful honeymoon phase where Jordan and Yash fall deeply in love. Oh. And the literary references King drops here are so deliberate.
Oh, the Proust.
Yes. They aren't just reading any book together, they are reading Proust in French out loud.
Precisely. Proust's In Search of Lost Time is the ultimate exploration of involuntary memory and how the past constantly intrudes on the present. By having them read Proust, while Jordan is wearing those red long john.
A little red suit.
The little red suit.
Yep.
King is winking at the reader. She's telling us to pay attention because this exact moment is going to become the lost time they spend the rest of their lives searching for.
Wow. But, the real world and Sam inevitably return. And here is where the trope of the love triangle is completely subverted. Because in a lesser novel, this would be a simple competition for the girl.
Right. A fist fight or something.
Yeah. But when Yash confesses to Sam that he wants to date Jordan, Sam's explosive reaction isn't just jealousy. He demands Yash swear an oath never to see her again, calling it unforgivable.
Yash refuses.
He refuses. He chooses Jordan, and the friendship completely fractures.
It's a profound rupture because it forces Yash to step out of his cynical, passive role and make an active choice that causes deep pain. He chooses love over loyalty, which, it sets up the massive geographical and temporal shifts in the next section of the book.
Which brings us to Terrace. Jordan graduates and moves there to work as an au pair. It's romantic, but it is incredibly lonely. Until Yash visits in August. And again, King uses literature to frame their experience. They take a train to the Swiss Alps, and they're specifically tracing the footsteps of Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain.
Right. And for those familiar with The Magic Mountain, it's a novel about people suspended in a sanatorium, completely isolated from the impending reality of the world below. That is exactly what Yash and Jordan are doing in the Alps. They are suspended in their own magic mountain.
It perfectly frames that joyful golden moment where they strip off their clothes in that secluded meadow, only to be interrupted by
cows.
The aggressively loud cows wearing giant bells. They have to scramble out of the way, laughing, naked. And Yash jokes that for the rest of his life, the sound of cowbells will make him horny.
Yeah.
It's pure suspended youth. But that golden moment is so incredibly fragile because the minute they get back to Paris, reality just hits them in the face in the form of a job offer.
And this is the critical narrative pivot. Yash is offered a job in artificial intelligence right there in Paris. The paperwork can be rushed. They could build the exact life they dreamed of.
But he doesn't take it.
He doesn't. After a 10-minute phone call from a pay booth to his overbearing father back in Tennessee, Yash completely caves.
Just collapses under the pressure.
Yeah. He tells Jordan he's returning to America to work for his dad to save money for New York instead.
He chooses the safe, practical route, completely abandoning the Parisian dream. But he promises her New York. He promises that on January 1st, they will reunite.
Right.
So, knowing all this, knowing the Proustian connection, the Thomas Mann suspension of reality, and that phone call with his dad, when Jordan is standing at Carousel 3 at the Newark airport with her mother's oatmeal-colored suitcase, waiting for his flight from Knoxville, does he actually show up?
He doesn't, and that is the true tragedy of the narrative. The carousel empties.
God, it's brutal.
It is, and he's not on the next flight either. When Jordan finally goes to a bank of payphones and calls his family, his stepmother reveals the gut punch. Yash didn't even drive north. He drove to Atlanta to be with Sam.
It is so devastating. When push came to shove, Yash couldn't bear the loss of his best friend. He chose the safety and the history of Sam over the terrifying, unscripted unknown of a new life with Jordan.
Thematic analysis of this moment is vital because, see, it's not just a sad breakup. It's an exploration of the failure of courage.
The failure of courage, yeah.
Yash's inability to sever his past completely alters the trajectory of all three of their lives. King is asking you to consider how often timing isn't about clocks or calendars.
Right.
It's about having the bravery to step into the life you actually want rather than the one that just feels familiar.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
King fast forwards the narrative 21 years. Jordan is now a celebrated author. She's married to a remarkably steady man named Silas.
Silas is great.
He is. They live in Maine with their two young boys, Harry and Jack, and suddenly Yash is passing through on a road trip and stays the night. And the tension here is masterful because of the environmental echoes King builds into the scene.
Oh, the house.
Yes.
Yash walks into Jordan's home in Maine and immediately points out that it eerily resembles the Breach House, the very house he and Sam shared in college. He notes the big black radiator in the corner, the exact style of the doorway moldings. He is implicitly suggesting that Jordan hasn't moved on at all, that she simply recreated their shared past.
Which is such an arrogant Yash thing to do.
Classic, yeah.
But I really want to talk about Silas, the husband, because his reaction during this visit is fascinating. After dinner, Yash tries to assert dominance by initiating a game of Sir Hinkum Funabuster with Silas and the kids.
Bringing the game back.
Exactly. And Yash flawlessly remembers the families, the parrot, the donkey, And then he turns to Silas. Using the exact polite phrasing required by the game, Yash says, "Silas, may I please have Hart the lover?"
It's brilliant symbolism. Yash is playfully, but very pointedly, asking the current husband for the specific card that represents Jordan.
Yes.
And Silas casually slides the card face up on the table. But when Yash pushes his luck and asks for Hart, the lover's wife, Silas just looks at him and calmly says, "No, you may not." Is Silas perfectly establishing his boundary?
Wait, I have to challenge that interpretation a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is Silas really just establishing a healthy boundary? Because to me, it reads almost like a subtle, passive-aggressive territorial dispute.
Really?
Yeah. He's playing Yash's game, but he's calmly marking his territory to the ghost of his wife's past. It's like two men circling each other under the guise of a parlor game.
Okay, that's a fair pushback. You could absolutely read it as a territorial defense. But I think what separates Silas from Sam in this dynamic is the complete lack of explosive anger.
That's true. He doesn't yell.
Right. Silas doesn't demand Yash leave or forbid Jordan from speaking to him. He holds his ground without raising his voice, which is a stark contrast to the rigid, demanding love Jordan experienced in her youth. Silas represents steady, present reality, whereas Yash represents the intoxicating, chaotic past.
And Yash knows he lost that interaction because the next morning, before he drives away, he leaves an artifact behind. He hands Jordan a battered paperback copy of Independent People, which is a novel about intense stubbornness and isolation. But tucked inside is a scrap of paper with a handwritten quote from Louis Ferdinand Céline's novel, Journey to the End of the Night.
The quote reads, "I didn't kiss her properly as I should have." The quote says, "I didn't kiss her properly as I should have. I was always partly thinking about something else, as if I wanted to keep them for something magnificent for later."
It breaks my heart every time I read it.
It really does.
Yash is acknowledging the cowardice we talked about earlier. He saved his passion for a future that never arrived.
And this is where King turns the mirror on you, the listener.
Yeah.
By embedding this Celine quote, King uses the deep cynicism of Journey to the End of the Night to highlight the absolute tragedy of a deferred life. How often do you hold back?
Right.
How often do we save our energy, our deepest commitments, or our vulnerability for later, assuming we have an infinite amount of time to get it right? The text makes it painfully clear that later is a fiction.
And that fiction is violently ripped away in the final act of the story.
Yes, it is.
King plunges us into an unimaginable present reality. Jordan's 12-year-old son, Jack, has been diagnosed with brain tumors.
It's so hard to read.
He is suffering from severe seizures to the point where he wears a hat with magnets stitched into it just to try and manage the pain. Jordan and Silas are in this agonizing holding pattern waiting for a surgical opening in Houston.
Right.
And right in the middle of this suffocating grief, Jordan gets a text from Sam, a man she hasn't spoken to in nearly 3 decades.
And the text informs her that Yash is dying of cancer in a hospital in Atlanta. And it's Silas, the steady, boundaried Silas, who insists that she go.
Yeah. So Jordan flies to Atlanta and she walks into room 508. And King paints this incredibly surreal scene. It's not a quiet, somber deathbed. The room is packed with Yash's uncles and old college friends, all of them standing around yelling at a March Madness basketball game on the TV.
Right, sports and chaos.
Yeah. And Yash is sitting up in the bed wearing a Georgia Bulldogs cap, an oxygen cannula in his nose, cheering right along with them.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the chaotic noise of the hospital room serves to isolate the silent, profound reunion of the original trio. Jordan, Yash, and Sam. Because when you look at Sam in this scene, you see the true architectural brilliance of King's character work.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Sam walks in carrying coffees. He goes straight to a chair in the corner next to a backpack. And Yash tells Jordan that Sam has slept in that chair on a little cot at the foot of his bed every single night for a week. When Yash called him in the middle of the night speaking gibberish, Sam recognized the signs of oxygen deprivation, drove over, and literally saved his life.
It's incredible.
Sam is the one managing the cannula. He's the one taking a wet tissue and carefully wiping down the hospital tray.
Remember the Sam from the beginning of the deep dive. The man reading Paul the Apostle. The moral absolutist who demanded Yash cut Jordy out of his life forever.
The judge.
The judge. That rigid judge has become the ultimate caretaker. It perfectly mirrors the conversion of Paul the Apostle himself. The man who once demanded excommunication is now the one physically sustaining Yash at the end of his life. It's a breathtaking redemption arc that proves Yash's old, cynical theory wrong. People do change.
They do. They really do. And the emotional weight of all of this, the collision of Yash dying and her son Jack facing brain surgery, coalesces in a specific memory Jordan reflects on.
The seminar.
Yes. Earlier that fall, she had attended a writing seminar taught by an author named Ray Hart. Now, if you remember the college chapters, Ray Hart wrote a story called The Last Fall, which Yash had harshly critiqued back at the Breach House.
Yep, full circle.
Exactly. When Jordan broke down sobbing at that seminar table, the students assumed she was just overwhelmed to meet her literary idol.
But the reader knows the truth. King shows us the crushing, unbearable weight of carrying dual tragedies.
Yeah.
Jordan was crying because the critique of that story in college was a mirror to the critique of their own lives. She knew Yash was dying, she knew her son was sick, and she was entirely alone in carrying the intersection of those two worlds.
It leads to this final, devastating interaction in room 508. The crowd finally clears out. Yash is struggling to breathe. In a moment of sheer lucidity, he looks at Jordan, holds her gaze, and calls her babe.
Oh, man.
It's an endearment stripped of all the Yash-like theatricality, an endearment he hasn't used since Paris.
Right.
Shortly after, as the night sets in, Yash gets extremely agitated. Sam steps out into the hallway with Jordan. He looks at her, completely stripped of all his old pride and rigidity, and asks her to go back into the room and sing to Yash to calm his agitation.
He specifically asked her to sing those old folk songs they used to sing, the songs about fairs.
So what does this all mean? The poetic symmetry here is staggering.
It really is.
Because decades ago, when Sam was panicked and couldn't sleep while writing his senior thesis, Jordan used to rub his head and sing folk songs to him to calm his anxiety. And now, at the very end of the line, Sam is asking Jordan to use that exact same comfort to sing his best friend to sleep as he dies.
It brings the entire narrative full circle, locking the architecture into place. This is why it subverts the love triangle trope. As we wrap up this deep dive, the key takeaway is that this was never just a story about who gets the girl.
No, not all.
It is a profound study on the endurance of grace. King shows us, in the most painful, intricate ways, how the people who break our hearts, the ones who are rigid or fearful, or who make cowardly choices at Newark Airport, can also be the exact same people who demonstrate the deepest capacities for love, care, and fierce loyalty later in life.
It's a powerful framework for how we view our own histories. It reminds you to deeply appreciate the Silases in your life, the steady, calm, present love that builds a foundation and holds space for your past without being threatened by it.
Exactly.
But it also gives you permission to make peace with the ghosts of the Yashes and the Sams, the people who hurt you, the ones who deferred their love for later, but who irrevocably shaped the architecture of who you are today.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over. One that I think King's novel subtly points toward when you strip away the romance. We spend so much of our youth clinging to our grievances, defining ourselves by the betrayals we suffered or the arguments we won.
Absolutely.
But looking at room 508, you have to wonder, is grief the only mechanism in the human experience powerful enough to finally force us to drop our useful egos? It seems it takes the ultimate finality of death to burn away the resentment, leaving nothing behind but the desperate, beautiful need to simply comfort one another.